The night air hung heavy with anticipation as Jesus gathered his 12 disciples for what would become the most significant meal in human history. He knew what lay ahead: the betrayal, the suffering, the cross. Yet his heart overflowed with love, not fear. This wasn't just another Passover dinner. This was the moment when everything would change. As they reclined around the table, Jesus took bread in his hands. The disciples watched, perhaps expecting the familiar blessing they'd heard countless times before. But something was different. His voice carried a weight they'd never heard as he spoke the words that would echo through eternity. "This is my body, given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." The room fell silent. Then he lifted the cup, his eyes meeting each of theirs. "This cup is the new covenant in my blood, poured out for you." The disciples exchanged glances, trying to grasp the magnitude of what they were witnessing. Jesus was establishing something entirely new, a covenant sealed not with the blood of animals, but with his own life. This wasn't just symbolism. This was prophecy unfolding before their eyes. He was telling them that his body would be broken, his blood would be shed, and through this ultimate sacrifice, humanity would find redemption. But then came the words that shattered their hearts. "One of you will betray me." The statement hit like lightning in the darkness. Shocked and saddened, each disciple began questioning himself, their voices overlapping in desperate confusion. "Lord, is it I?" The very thought that one among them could commit such an act seemed impossible. Yet Jesus spoke with the certainty of divine knowledge, his eyes perhaps lingering on Judas, who sat among them with 30 pieces of silver already weighing heavy in his heart. After the meal, Jesus led them to the Garden of Gethsemane, a place where olive trees cast long shadows in the moonlight. Here, away from the crowds and the noise of Jerusalem, Jesus would face his greatest human moment. He asked his closest friends, Peter, James, and John, to stay near and keep watch. Then he walked a little further, falling to his knees under the weight of what was coming. This was no ordinary prayer. Jesus prayed with deep sorrow, his very soul troubled by the cup he was about to drink. Sweat fell like drops of blood as he wrestled with the human desire to avoid suffering and the divine mission he came to fulfill. "Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me." The words revealed his humanity, the natural human response to impending agony. But then came the surrender that would save the world. "Yet not my will, but yours be done." 3 times he prayed this prayer, and 3 times he found his disciples sleeping. They couldn't understand the magnitude of the moment. While they slept, Jesus was choosing to embrace the cross. He was choosing love over self-preservation, obedience over comfort, salvation for humanity over his own escape from pain. The sound of approaching footsteps broke the silence. Torches flickered through the trees as a crowd approached. Soldiers, temple guards, and religious leaders armed with swords and clubs. At their head walked Judas, one of the 12, carrying out the most infamous betrayal in history. But here's what's remarkable. Jesus didn't resist. He didn't call down legions of angels to defend him. He didn't use his divine power to escape. Instead, he accepted the kiss of betrayal with the same love he'd shown at the supper table. When the soldiers moved to arrest him, he went willingly. When Peter drew his sword to defend him, Jesus told him to put it away. This wasn't defeat. This was victory in its most unexpected form. As the disciples fled in terror, Jesus stood calm in the midst of chaos. He understood what they couldn't yet grasp. This arrest, this betrayal, this approaching suffering, it was all part of the greatest rescue mission in history. Every step toward the cross was a step toward humanity's salvation. His non-resistance wasn't weakness, it was the strongest act of love the world has ever seen. In those final hours before his crucifixion, Jesus demonstrated the depth of divine love. He instituted a new covenant, embraced his mission despite overwhelming sorrow, and chose obedience to God's will over his own comfort. The Last Supper, the prayer in Gethsemane, and the betrayal by Judas weren't just historical events, they were the opening movements of the symphony of salvation that would reach its crescendo on the cross, forever changing the relationship between God and humanity.